right, welcome and thanks for joining our webinar today, where we're excited to discuss tips on how to wow your dashboard users. My name is Brian Zwallen, and I'm the SVP of Customer Success and Partner Relations at Arria NLG, and I'll be your host for this event. So our agenda today will kick off with a little context around who we are as individual professionals and organization. We'll discuss our solution to empower your organization with actionable insights to facilitate faster decision-making. We'll touch on our tech suite, and that's going to show us the various ways you can deploy our solution that truly scales. And then we'll jump into a live action demo in the Tableau dashboard. And finally, we'll close out with some time for Q&A. So first off, let me introduce my colleague, Douglas Kirk. Doug is our training and development specialist at Arria. He works with us developing the various success plan courses that are available at Arria Academy. You may have seen him in some of our getting started videos, so you'll probably recognize his voice. Doug, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Brian, and welcome to everyone. We see we have a lot of people here today, so we're excited about that.
Cool. So now a little bit about us at Arria. Arria is a recognized global leader in natural language generation, or NLG, with the greatest concentration of expertise and 40 core NLG patents, with more pending. Now, our research center is located in Aberdeen, Scotland, with our primary business office in the United States, and we have regional offices worldwide. Our chief scientists, Dr. Ehud Reiter and Dr. Yaji Sripada, are two of the leading figures internationally in the NLG space, and they mentor a team of PhDs in artificial intelligence disciplines such as NLG and data science. Arria NLG is an artificial intelligence technology in that it replicates the human process of expertly analyzing and then communicating the knowledge that's learned about your data. So using our solution provides your organization with accurate, consistently excellent, non-biased commentary at machine speed and massive scale. In a recent Gartner report, they're stating that data storytelling helps decision makers engage with data and analytics by delivering insights in compelling forms. And 75% of stories will be automatically generated through technologies like NLG. Using Arria NLG, you deliver real, actionable insights without the need for interpretation. You gain efficiencies through the automation of analysis and of writing reports, and then free up your valuable employees from doing those kinds of robotic tasks. And you achieve consistently excellent, non-biased commentary with the ability to scale and democratize knowledge throughout the organization. And with our out-of-the-box capabilities, you're going to see a quick return on your investment. Our customers and partners invent all kinds of ways to harness the power of NLG. So this slide speaks from a few of our customers and the value that they've realized using NLG. And the BBC says in a one-click process, they were able to take raw data and then automatically generate news stories at speed and scale. The Bank of New York Mellon significantly reduced the amount of time writing reports and freeing up their valuable employees to have more time interacting with customers. And Ernst & Young provides more accurate and consistently excellent reports for their customers. If you navigate to our website by typing arria.com/everywhere, you'll find another list of use cases from our customers and partners. Mousing over the tiles is going to show their direct quotes for your review. At Arria NLG, we have a vision of NLG everywhere. So in order for empower organizations to expand their use, we've developed several channels where NLG can be accessed. It's all supported by Arria NLG Studio that sits on top of the stack. So for instance, if you're using our custom extension in a BI dashboard, whether that's Tableau or Power BI or TIBCO or Click or MicroStrategy, your data will flow from the dashboard through Studio, which is going to analyze the data. And then it's going to pass the commentary right back into the dashboard next to your other visuals. In a few moments, we're going to look at Arria NLG apps, which gives you the ability to create narratives without code. You're going to simply select, in this case, in the Tableau dashboard, you're going to select a sheet with some measures and dimensions, and then click a few configuration buttons and what type of analysis you're interested in. We're also going to look at Arria Answers that takes this a step further. So if you're looking to drill down even more than the provided narrative, you're going to be able to simply type in a question and get an answer in natural language. Now, Arria Connect allows your developers or our partners to connect with our solution with many other systems, including your own bespoke solution. And Arria for RPA, or robotic process automation, allows you to build an end-to-end solution where you can potentially pull data from disparate systems and then pass insights on that data to any presentation layer, including email. And there's 1.1 billion Microsoft Office installs, which equals to a lot of Excel users. With Arria for Excel, you're able to augment complex analysis with commentary directly embedded in the worksheet. Now, these add-ins for the dashboards and Excel are available for you to try out today. So you go to arria.com, as you see in the address bar at the top, /technology-suite, and you'll see all these apps up here for you. Now, it's all driven by Studio, as I mentioned earlier. The Studio is it's the heart of soul of our technology. It's got powerful language analytics built into the application that allows you to shape what you're going to be able to say about your data, right? Because a lot of times when we're talking about numbers, there's a lot of math involved, obviously, and we take it for granted. Also, we use these powerful linguistics, computational linguistics, able to make it sound more human. So we're able to say things like, the United States or the United Kingdom instead of the Germany. We recognize plurals and things of that nature. And the architecture makes Studio very accessible. So it's all connected through RESTful APIs. So wherever your data source is, as you can see on the left side of this slide, you connect with that RESTful API. The data passes through securely in an encrypted tunnel. It hits Studio, which does the analysis. It generates the narrative. It flushes the cache, so it doesn't store the data. And then it passes it right back down through that RESTful API to any presentation layer. All right, so Doug, I think we're going to just hand this off to you at this point.
All right, welcome everybody. All right, so to get started, I'm going to demo a bit of Arria for Tableau. I want to start off by showing where you can go to get this. So give this a quick click. So when you go to arria.com/bi-tableau, you'll come to this site, and right after the 8 different narrative types, you'll see the option to download. So that's where you go to get it. And wanted to point out that we have a relationship with Tableau. So of course, when you go to the Tableau website and you go to their extension gallery, there we are. So those are 2 locations where you can go to get this. Okay, so in this webinar, I'm going to demonstrate 7 tips to wow your dashboard users. These tips will work with Tableau and Arria's add-in together to construct a dashboard that will collectively wow your users. So as I demo the product, try to imagine your data being displayed within the dashboard. Okay, so here is our beginning of the dashboard, and I want to start off with the first tip. And that is to provide an insight that your dashboard does not reveal easily. So I'm going to start off going to the showcase. Here we go. This Tableau dashboard has several visualizations, some dynamic KPIs across the top, and several tabs going across the top as well, each one telling a different story from a different perspective. What sets this dashboard apart from other dashboards is the Arria NLG narrative over to the right. It provides additional insights for faster decision-making in natural language, but it was not generated by a data analyst. It was generated by Arria for Tableau at machine speed. And this non-biased NLG narrative was created without using any code. So Arria for Tableau uses Connect 3.0, which provides a user-friendly interface for Arria apps. It provides new functionality over its previous version, 2.2, and it's easy to use. So we're excited to introduce both Connect 3.0 and Arria for Tableau as we continue to enhance our product line. All you need to do to create an NLG narrative like this is walk through a configuration wizard. It provides value within minutes. So it truly is disruptive technology. Now you're going to be able to choose from 8 analytical narrative types that you can customize to describe your data. Each narrative has options to control the content. Let me launch that there. So we're going to focus on how you can customize them, change the focus of it and when to choose each type of narrative. So here are all 8 described. So you can see it starts off with descriptive statistics, which is a very commonly used narrative. In fact, that's the one that we are looking at right here. This is the descriptive statistics narrative. Then we have some variance narratives, time-based and target-based. These are our 2 newest ones, the trend analysis and ranking analysis, which provide an excellent analysis of your data over time. And then we have 3 narratives that describe charts and visualizations of data. But keep in mind that the narratives themselves are excellent. You don't have to use them just to describe a chart. So we'll see that as we go through the demonstration. They provide excellent analytics on their own. So let me move back over to our showcase file. So I'm looking at the Explore NLG Apps tab right here. This tab displays several charts with an out-of-the-box narrative to the right that provides deeper understanding. It's using the descriptive statistics narrative, which identifies the product that contributed the most. So you can see that it is Caradian right there. It then summarizes actual sales for each product, as you can see, Retain, Ointmo, Neutrali, identifying the main contributing country. And then it drills down into the actual sales by country. So here we begin right there, identifying the significant product. So this level of detail that's provided cannot be grasped simply by looking at the charts and graphs to the left. And it would take a considerable amount of time to generate this kind of narrative. So the goal is not just to see numbers in a dashboard, but instead it is to understand the main contributors to those numbers, identify trends, and provide valuable insights that promote faster decision-making. So the narrative truly complements the data that's in your dashboard. And as you go from to each tab that we're going to go through, consider your own data in a dashboard like this and how a narrative truly just provides that kind of insight that the dashboard may not provide easily. So that brings me to my second tip. And that is to provide narratives that drill down into your data. So as we drill down into the data, it's the narrative will dynamically update. There's not another narrative built behind the scenes. When you click on a piece of data, then the narrative will update. So let's see how that happens. So here we see that Caradian is the most significant contributor. Here is Caradian within the visualization. So if I give that a click, there we go. Now I'm focused on Caradian. The narrative over to the right updates, and this descriptive statistics narrative now updates solely on Caradian. How does that work? Well, right now I'm in the browser interface of Arria for Tableau. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the desktop version. So we're going to see both interfaces today. Of course, the browser is going to be the final presentation layer, but this is where you're going to do your work. And here I am in the same showcase file, but in the desktop version. So here is the original narrative. And it's important to know the back-end data. So if you're comfortable working with Tableau, you'll probably be comfortable with this. I'm going to go into the data menu and take a look at the data. So here we can see there are 2,191 rows. So the narrative over to the right is based on this data set. And you can see, about 2,000 rows here. And of course, this is scalable. Also, keep in mind that I have a filter. So I'm only focusing on 2020. So out of those 2,000 rows, I'm looking at, roughly a third of that. But then when I click on Caradian, now I'm focusing on 2020 only on this product. And now as I look at the data, here are the countries broken down. And then if I click on data, instead of 2,191 records, this narrative is now based on 298 rows or records. So that really shows the versatility of the product. When you click on your data and you drill down into your data, the narrative dynamically updates, not another narrative hiding behind the scenes, but dynamically focusing on only these 298 rows. So if you picture your data in this dashboard and a narrative that dynamically updates with the user. That's power. So hopefully that really shines for you. And then I click back on Karadian, and it goes back to the original data set. Okay, so that's your second tip, to provide narratives that drill down into your data. And how does it drill down? You add dimensions to your narrative. So in this narrative, I have product, I have country, I have the measure is of course actual sales. But when you add dimensions to your narrative, like your product line, your countries, your sales territories, those are your dimensions that you add to it. Okay. So now you can see how Tableau drills down into a subset of data to provide deeper analytics. Let's take a look at the design of this report. Let's see. So over to the right, move my webinar thing here over to the right, you're going to see these three dots. When you click on the three dots, you'll have the option to go into NLG apps, which is where we're going to focus today. Also, Arria answers, which will show right over here. And of course, you have the ability to use custom narratives. So I'm going to dive into NLG apps and see what's under the hood here. So as you can see, it's basically just a wizard. You pick and choose the features that you want. So here we see our two dimensions, product and country, and there is our measure. When I go into options, this is where you can control the narrative, change the rankings, change how it displays. Now this narrative was several paragraphs. That's because we told it to tell us everything. If I tell it to choose important things only, then it's only going to focus on the main contributors. So now when I click generate, the narrative updates. This is the control you have over the narrative. And we're going to take a look at several options that you have to control the narrative, but that's how easy it is. So you just go into the three dots in the top right-hand corner, and then you can change the design of the narrative. So it's basically just a wizard, and we're going to walk through step by step how to do it. So that brings me to tip number 3. Provide the user options to change the narrative themselves while conserving valuable real estate on your dashboard. So provide those kind of options where the user can then filter the data. So here we see 2020 was selected, and we drilled down into Karadian. So back to all data, and then this is a filter, if I add 2021, all my KPIs update, but so did the narrative. Again, not another narrative hanging out in the background. It's just dynamic analytics. Go back to the way it was. Okay. Tip number 4. Here we go. And that is to use multiple tabs to provide multiple visuals and narratives. So by creating multiple tabs that we see across the top here, you provide a unique or completely unique story separate from the others in terms of topic and content. So each one of these tabs provides a different story. It could be another line of your business. So use the different tabs to provide that kind of uniqueness. And then you also make it user-friendly so that the user does not have to scroll up and down the page. So try, and you can control, the space that's used for your narratives here. The goal, of course, is to minimize the amount of scrolling that the user has to do. So next, I'm looking at the Analyze Sales Performance tab. Here we are here. So the first narrative uses descriptive statistics, which we've seen. It's complementing a tree map visualization. So it's analyzing profit by market and product. So here we see it there. You can see that departmental is the main contributing market. So there is departmental. And then it drills down into that market and identifies Karadian and Ointmo as the main contributors. So it analyzes the data, it tells us who is the main contributor, and then it drills down into the dimensions automatically. Next to it, we see a time-based variance narrative. It's complementing a bar chart visualization right above it. The narrative is contrasting Q3 and Q4 for actual sales in the year 2020. And it identifies two main contributors to, in this case, the decline in actual sales. So there's neutrality and Karadian. Today we have 3. All right. So keep in mind that you have the ability to control how many contributors are added to this narrative, and we're going to take a look at that in this tab right here. So you do have control over how many contributors are listed. You can use a hard-coded number, or you can use a percentage, which is a little bit more calculated. Next to that is a target-based variance app, and in this case, we are analyzing 2 distinct measures, actual sales and target sales. So a product manager will of course want to know whether sales are being, or targets are being reached, and then it drills down into the details of those products that were identified. And in this case, it's using the top 3 option to determine how many products are listed. Next to that is analyze trends and ranking. These are our 2 newest narratives. And of course, we're going to continue to add narrative types as we continue to enhance our product line and the narratives that are available. The first is the trend analysis app. What this does is it generates a narrative that analyzes the changes in a trend of a specific measure over time. So then it highlights significant shifts, and then it drills down through multiple dimensions. So it's identifying a trend right here from October to December, and it lists that first, the most recent first. And you can see what happened during that trend and identifies, the main contributors to it. So yeah, you're looking at a chart and you can see we dipped, we rose, we dipped, we rose. But what the narrative does, it analyzes it. It tells you what's going on during that. So you can understand, well, why did the numbers dip and rise where they did? So you're identifying the trend in the configuration of this narrative. You use a percentage to identify what is that shift. And as you add more dimensions to this, you can add to the story. So if I wanted to add not just the product, I could add country to this, and it would identify what happened in this trend analysis by adding country. Next to that is a ranking analysis. So as you look at this one, this is analyzing actual sales for each country. So as you look at this is going to be a little difficult to look at this and say, okay, well, which country was the highest ranked country most of the time? That's what this narrative does. So it identifies that the US was most frequently ranked as the top country, and it was 3 out of 12 months. So rather than trying to decipher it from this chart, you use the narrative and it analyzes the ranking. And it's very dynamic. So if instead of 2020, I wanted to use 2021, I should have added the year first. And then if I add 2021, this is going to update and it analyzes the data. And now you can see that the UK was the most frequently ranked. So within 2021. So that's how dynamic the narratives are. Let's move over to described charts. Described charts are the narrative types that can be used to describe a chart. For example, the bottom narratives are complementing the charts right above them, but keep in mind that these narratives work well on their own. So here, first we see the pie chart. It's analyzing one measure, cost of goods sold by one dimension, market, and then it displays percentages and explains significant outliers. Here's your bar chart. The bar chart analyzes measures, in our case, actual sales, over combinations of dimensions, product at the bottom, and then market across the top by providing analytics on those variances. So this drill down narrative provides detail for the main contributors, which are departmental, brand store, and online. And then it drills down into the products within those markets. So this is great because it identifies the markets. But let's say I'm a product manager and I wanted to see this narrative based on product instead. Let me switch over to the desktop version and go to my described charts. Let's take a look at how easy it is to change the narrative. All right, so I click on the 3 dots, go into NLG apps, and here we can see market was listed first and then product. That's how easy it is. Change the order. Now product is listed first, meaning it gets the priority. I click options, and tell it how much to say. This is the verbosity of the report. Tell me everything, just the important things, or a quick summary. Now, when I click generate, now as a product manager, I like this narrative. That's how easy it is to change the design of it. And then, of course, to the right, we have a line chart, and a line chart analyzes measures, in our case, profit, over combinations of dimensions, month and market over time. Okay, so that'll take us to tip number 5, to integrate many dimensions to provide multiple or broader perspectives of analytics. So the more dimensions that you add, the more information you can tell in your narrative. So to describe this, we're going to build one from scratch. So I'm moving over to Configure NLG Apps. And to the right, we can see a narrative that has already been built. So I'm going to get rid of it. So click on here and remove from dashboard. And here we go. We'll build a narrative from scratch. Over to the left, we see the objects that you can add to the dashboard. And you have the option of tiled versus floating. If you click on floating, that gives you the ability to control exactly where it's placed. So I'm going to choose floating, double click on extension, and go to my extensions. And I have the extension stored here. So where do you get this file? As I mentioned earlier, when I went to the website, there's the option to download Arria for Tableau. So that's where you go to get it. So you would actually download this file, and it's a small file, but very powerful. So I click open, and it's ready to go. So I'm just going to place this. I'm just going to resize it a little bit so I can move it over to the right and size it accordingly. So you're just creating the placeholder space for your narrative. Then it's just a matter of logging in. Okay, great. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a target-based variance narrative from scratch that analyzes target sales versus actual sales. And we're going to take a look at that option of providing the amount of dimensions that you drill down into. So the first step, as you can see, these 3 items are grayed out because the first step is to configure your data. So when I click on configure data, you have to define your data source. This drop-down menu that we see over here is represented by these data sources to the left. So the data source that we're going to choose is data for narrative. What this is a separate sheet that contains all the dimensions and all of the measures. If you really just wanted, a few fields, you can use a separate sheet, of course. But in this case, we have all the dimensions and all the measures available. And this is great if I were going to configure Arria answers, which is the next tab. In that case, I might just toggle on all fields and making all the fields available. But in our case, we're just going to be very specific. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to identify a few dimensions: product, market, and country. And then under measures, we're going to do a target-based variance. So I need 2 measures, and that is actual sales and target sales. When I click save, my data source is now defined, and these 3 light up. So I'm going to go into NLG Apps, create a narrative from scratch with no code. Here are the 8 narratives that we saw on the web page earlier. So you can choose whichever narrative type works best for you. So feel free to explore how they work, and keep in mind that every one of these can be customized when you go through the wizard. So I'm going to click on target-based narrative. Here are my dimensions. This is where you get to define how the dimensions look and display. You have an option to add an alias. Keep in mind that the field listing name here is what's in the back end. So if it is case sensitive in many cases, so you can simply display it lowercase or use a different name. And of course, I want to define it as a location. By doing so, it'll use the proper language when it refers to it. And in market and product, I'm just going to keep the defaults. Under my measures, here is actual sales. You again have the option to use an alias. The entity type, I want to display it in currency using US dollars. You also have the option to indicate whether an increase in this measure is good, bad, or neutral. It's sales, so it's good. But by by indicating so, the language that's used, this is one of your ways to customize the narrative, change the way it refers to a measure. And then finally, under target sales, same thing, display it in currency using US dollars. Okay, so that's all set. I'm going to go over to options. In the narrative options, now keep in mind that each narrative will have different options in this last step. This is a target-based narrative, so it's contrasting two different measures. And now we talk about how many entities do you want to display when you describe that variance. So the top option, a hard-coded number. I can choose 2 here, and when I preview it, it's going to list 2 countries. Now, country was the first dimension listed. So again, it's the order that it was listed in. So since country was the first dimension, it's categorizing by country, and then it drills down into it. So there's my 2 countries. If I then want to choose coverage, this is a little bit more calculated, a little bit more AI, considering the fact you may have many countries or clients and products. This way you can use a percentage to identify, well, how many contributors should I list? So if I choose a high number, my preview is automatically updating. France, China, Mexico, and Germany. So I'm getting several. If I go with a smaller number, preview updates, a little more calculated. You have to know your data. I have to go with a little bit of a higher number, France, China. So that's what we mean by coverage. You use a percentage, and that will help to identify how many contributors should be used in my narrative. I click generate, it's ready to go. So that's how you can control the number of contributors that are listed. And that was our 4th tip, 5th tip actually. So next, the next tip is to use filters and slicers to change the data input or data range. We saw that a little bit earlier. So the year indicator up at the top will help you to filter the data in real time. So next, let's take a look at Arria answers. I'm going to use my web version. We already did this in the desktop client. So here we are at Explore Arria Answers. Now this is going to give you the ability to basically have a conversation with your data. So this is going to allow your users to get that one nagging question answered in real time that maybe they haven't been able to answer yet. Also note the time that is applied. So I have 2021 here. I can easily add another year. So there's my filter has been updated. So now I can ask data, and keep in mind that I'm using all dimensions and all of the measures, and I can ask about two years in my questions. So I'm going to ask which product. Now product is one of the dimensions, so you saw it in the drop-down menu. You can just click on it. Which had the highest actual sales? That's a measure, so it's in my drop-down menu. In the first quarter of 2021. You can type the question mark, it's not necessary, it's just for visual purposes, it's assumed. So now we can see the top product was camelweed in the first quarter of 2021. All right, so now I can dive down a little bit or drill down a little bit deeper. What are actual sales year on year? Now this is a temporal variance query, which will analyze how much a measure has changed over a period of time. So here we see that actual sales actually decreased by 46 million or 50% this year compared to last year. Okay, so that's good to know. We identified that the best or the most actual sales were generated by camelweed. So now I can get more specific about that product. What drove actual sales versus target sales for camelweed, that was our product, last month. So now it's analyzing 2 actual measures. So in May 2021, actual sales for camelweed were higher than target sales by 30%, and identifies one of the countries that was the main contributor. And of course, I could get more specific, please identify the products. So this allows you to have that conversation with your data. So that way you can get those nagging questions answered, whatever they may be. So now you can see how the combination of intelligent narratives and Arria answers can promote faster decision-making in real time. So consider the amount of time that might be required for a data analyst to discover these kinds of insights. Now also keep in mind the linguistics that are used when you ask questions like this. If a value is 0%, you can expect the response to use proper phrasing like there were no values at this time. As Brian mentioned earlier, it will properly state Canada versus the United States and knows when to use those words. Okay. Finally, as I click on Explore Custom Narratives, this tab shows you that if your needs exceed the out-of-the-box solution that we've been looking at, you can talk to an Arria representative about obtaining a studio license, where you can then have complete control over the structure and every word of a custom narrative. Now that I'm looking at this one, it brings me to tip number 7, and that is, let the user define the threshold for drivers and contributors. So note that the target-based narrative that we created from scratch and this last tab that we're looking at allows the user to change the threshold. So there's the threshold percentage there, very similar to what we used just before. Using thresholds when you have many products or dimensions to list can give you better control over the content. So things to keep in mind. Dashboards can be built from many kinds of data to provide insights into many types of businesses. These narratives and Arria answers are really going to shine for you when it's analyzing your data. And of course, Arria NLG for Tableau is also available on mobile devices. So let me move on to that next screen. Here's the dashboard on a mobile device. So you can see it's on my iPhone. So I just took a screen capture of that. And of course, you can download that from the App Store on your mobile device. Real quick, here are the steps to basically add a narrative to your dashboard. Load your data into Tableau, download the extension, click the extension, create a space for your narrative, and walk through the wizard. Okay, so as you think about your own dashboards, I'm sure that they provide very useful KPIs for you, but do they provide insights? Do they deliver meaning and understanding? We hope that you now recognize that Arria NLG no-code required narratives can provide analytics and understanding for your narratives. So I wanted to point out in the top right-hand corner where you can get documentation. So as you go into it, just click the 3 dots, click on documentation, and that's where you can get all the information that you will need. So in conclusion, you now know 7 tips that are getting rave reviews for your Tableau dashboards. Arria NLG provides a no-code required out-of-the-box solution. But the real question is, how much time would it take to do this kind of analytics on your own? Deploying this kind of artificial intelligence to your dashboards will allow your data analysts to focus on more critical tasks. Remember that Arria continues to add functionality and features. So we just launched Arria for Tableau 3.0, and we're going to continue to add functionality and features as this disruptive technology continues to grow.